leading up to. I think people look at the idea of marriage and what it is leading up to it and not thinking about the bigger picture. It's all the glitz and glam and none of the expectations of, there's going to be struggle. Like anything that you do for the rest of your life, whether it's with a partner or you're working a job, like it's going to be some ups and downs. Like your days are always going to be sunshines and rainbows. You're going to have some things that you need to work through at times. And again, I think it's really a misconception that everybody just thinks that your marriage is supposed to be perfect. Like that, you're not online like that on Instagram, but it be people on there where I want that 90s R&B like love or this type of man. If it ain't like this, I don't want it. Like it's very much a mindset of I think almost it needs to be perfect and not that I have to build and work with somebody and things change over time.
Well, if you don't know, and I'm not making excuses, but you gotta remember, and we talked about this a while ago. Statistics show few and few people getting married, and so what you see now,
people don't see benefits.
So, well, it's not even the benefits. What you see now is, and there's a bunch of different reasons. I'll get into it because people have been saying it to me. But what you see now is you're seeing those seeds are starting to bear fruit. Who that's why the divorce rate is lower because fewer people get married, and fewer people get married for different reasons. Somebody said to me today that their parents didn't get married because dad felt he didn't want to be controlled by somebody. That's their view. Some people have parents who fight and argue. That's their view. Some people have parents who they never seen the real deal. Like I told you, I say it all the time. I've never saw my parents argue. But when I got older, I realized behind closed doors, some things went down. I just didn't know about. Mm-hmm. So my perception of marriage was totally different. Like your mom's perception was totally different. So that's a lot to do with it. I think a lot of perception that comes today comes from ignorance. People just don't know. So we make stuff up as we go along. We think marriage is a wish list. My marriage is going to be just like this. Long before I get married, it's going to be just like this. And some of the stuff we debate about, because it's ironic, just a couple of days ago, I was watching this thing and T.I., with him and his wife. So he came out and made a statement that he don't want her paying for anything. She got money. We all know she has money too. And I was amazed that it created an argument because you had some women like, yo, what do you think about that? She got her own. And then you had some men saying, well, she got her own. And then I'm thinking how they're going back and forth. And it wasn't about him saying what she could not do or capable, because he said she's more than capable. He was raised in the way he thinks it should be. If you're capable of doing it, you should do it. Yeah. He didn't say go out and get 6 or 10 jobs. And then the other thing was somebody sent me a video because they knew this was going to be a topic. And it was an interesting video. This guy is picking up his wife from work. And, he get in the car. He said, babe, I got bad news. I know it's an anniversary and we're going to go out. I was going to take you to an expensive restaurant.
He took her to like Olive Garden.
Well, no, he didn't. No,
he was saying that.
And she was like, well, I got it. She said, you've been taking care of me for 20 years. Some people had a problem with that, So it's just interesting. The concept is different where marriage just kind of went from we work together.
Yes.
That we went in this, we're both going to do what we need to do. And it's not always going to be 50-50 because at some point in time, somebody's going to be giving more. So now it's almost like we keep score. And it's like people, people keep score. And I say this all the time when I have people say, why I marry nobody? Because, he ain't bringing anything to the table. Well, I mean, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a table when I met your mom. So I think when I have people make the blanket statement, especially when you don't have anything. Mm-hmm. So I think marriage has kind of been redefined. Marriage is not the status it used to be. It used to mean something to get married. When you had somebody to marry you, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was a big deal for the guy. It was a big deal for the females. A big deal for the family. Now it's kind of like.
I think it's. Yeah. I was going to say like kind of. The idea of I can do this again, like you know what I mean. Like I'll get remarried,
or if it don't work out.
If it don't work out, I can just get a divorce.
I was talking to somebody today, and she told me how, and I wasn't surprised how her and her fiance
cheat marriage like relationships.
Her and her fiance get married, and they're already talking about the divorce. What would happen if they got a divorce? And I'm thinking to myself like, man, that's like planning to fail.
That's kind of where we are.
And that's why I wasn't surprised. But that also tells you something about how marriage is viewed. I think a lot of people's perception of marriage is based on, sometimes what they don't have. So they think they're gonna get married and it's gonna be all this. I'm gonna get married, somebody's gonna cook all, I was just watching this clip when you walked in. It was funny because it was a three-way discussion. This lady, a guy, and this other lady was having a discussion about marriage. And he simply said he was talking about roles. He wasn't being demeaning. He was just talking about roles. And he mentioned how his expectation is of his wife, to cook and clean and do things like that. And this one lady agrees, and this other lady just starts going off. And she starts hollering. So first, I love his response, because the response was, when you holler, it often demonstrates your lack of vocabulary and your lack of understanding. But he said, let me explain something to you. He said, I wasn't talking about, he wasn't saying gender roles, but he said, just like if my wife gets a flat tire, the expectation is I take care of it.
Yes.
If something happens to the car, the expectation is I take care of it.
Yes.
If something happens around the house, the expectation is I take care of it.
Yes.
It's not about me being tired or her being tired. There's certain expectations, when you go into a relationship. But I think that line is skewed now because you have some men who think it's, they view his wife as a slave, and you got some women who think it's demeaning.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's like the duality of that there. It's like both sides.
Yeah, because I think we don't realize how important perception is. And one thing I've learned in my time, especially counseling people, is one of the main reasons because there's so many different definitions of love. When we say I love you, then we these different definitions, man. Some people's definition of love is I'm in it to win it. Some people's definition of love is as long as I can tolerate it. Or it's just so many different definitions, and I think that's where it starts to kind of take away from the substance and the essence of marriage.
And I think what's actually kind of funny, or just a thought to me, is like you have so many people complain or say that this is their, marriage is this or marriage is that, or like I've seen, or like they won't get married and use some of those things as excuses. But it's like, why not make your marriage what you think it should be? You know what I mean? Like, why take all these negative perceptions that you may have heard or seen and put that onto something that you haven't even done or experienced yet?
But I like it. You go somewhere, you get a bad steak, you don't stop eating steak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody hypes up a TV show and you watch it, it's not good. You don't stop looking at TV.
Yeah, I'm done watching TV.
Yeah, so it's easy to say. When I hear people say that, to me, it just kind of it exposes a weakness in them. That you allowing somebody else to define you and what you're capable of. Because just because two people don't make it for whatever reason, and sometimes they're good reasons, they just people get married too soon. I'm not domestic. There's a bunch of reasons that people, but that's not you. That's not me. And I think that's the problem. Marriage is about two individuals coming together, making this relationship work. Not three, not four, not what everybody else's opinion, what everybody else thinks. And at some point in time, and you said this earlier, I think it's so key, it's not just marriage. You won't be successful in anything in life if you allow other people to influence all your decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just kind of the writer in me, I just look at it as like everybody has their own unique story.
Yeah.
Everybody's path is going to be different. Sometimes like the results are the same in some cases, or the experiences may be similar, but your story don't have to be the same. Like, if you keep hearing that marriage is blah, blah, all these bad things about it, you don't have to continue that path. Learn from it. Use it as an example of things not to do.
I think it depends on how you define results. And what I mean by this, because on the surface, things can look the same. But I think the results are always going to be different because people taking different paths to get there. My 39, 40 years is different from someone else's 39, 40 years. You know what I mean? So the result may appear to be the same that we've been married, but I think that path that we took to get there defines where we are now, because that's why you have some people who are married and they still like strangers. They just friends. They don't, there's no intimacy. They just kind of hang together. Then you got some people who are married, like your mom and I, we still date, we still do stuff. But some people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. We got to date night. We coming up on 40 years together. And some people didn't make 4. So I think the perception now, this is my humble opinion, talking to people, not even including people I talk to today, when somebody young comes to me and talk about getting married, it's already about me and I. I listen to how many times I hear me and I in that conversation. And that kind of tells you where they are. Because if you're talking about getting married, you keep talking about you. It's all about me and I. That's a problem.
And
because that thinking has to change to us, to we and us.
And I think that's very key and kind of the perception versus the reality of marriage. I think a lot of people go into it with that mentality of they got to carry on to themselves, hold on to themselves, or hold on to this part of them, or like this individuality that they feel like they're losing, or it's like a battle back and forth. When it's in reality, once you get married, you are forming a unit. You're coming together. This is a us.
When I sit down and counsel people, and that question comes up, I challenge it. Because you say you don't want to lose yourself, but you're not the same person you were when you were 16 anyway.
You should.
So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
When you left elementary school to middle school, there was a change. When you left middle school to high school, there was a change. High school to college, there was a change. When you move on to the workforce and things, you change. So you don't say you're losing yourself to life. You're growing. Yeah. So it's the same thing you get in a relationship. It's not about losing myself. I'm growing into a relationship, how I fit into this relationship. Now, I'm not saying you get married, you compromise everything. Yeah, but when you get married, the understanding is that there are some things that we have to compromise. There's something that we have to negotiate. It can't all be me or all be her. And you know what? And sometimes you give up some stuff, but it's no business it's like when you get a job. That ain't always how you want the job to be. It just don't work like that. Or sports. How many times you play sports, man, and in your mind, this is how the game went, and the game unfolded totally different.
So I'd be interested to hear like your perception or idea of marriage, kind of when you first were thinking about that getting married, and then Devin, I would love for us to kind of talk about what we think the perception is.
My perception was different, and it was different for a lot of reasons. First of all, with social media and everything now, you're exposed to so many different images now. You just didn't have it. Even on the political forum, like I'm gonna say it, the idiot J.D. Vance, about not having kids in his view. That wasn't the talk. That wasn't a political talk. People weren't, like even back in the 50s, it wasn't. I'm not that old, but I go back when I'm growing up in the 70s. It wasn't like that. So I think now because the media plays such a large role, because you got to remember when I first started looking at TV, when TV first was transitioning, they slept in twin beds. Everybody you saw on TV was married. I'm just saying they did. So if you look at those images that people saw back then, you weren't seeing couples fighting and slugging. You didn't see those images. You just didn't have it. So for me, I grew up in a two-parent home. My mom and dad, my father was a police officer, my mom was a teacher, so I guess you would call them both professionals. And they had a certain way they conducted themselves. And even the families that I can think about my uncles, my aunts, they all had that same strong rooted thing. When I went to visit my uncles, I saw that. When I went to spend time, my first cousins, I saw the same characteristics. So for me, that's what I was exposed to. You see some of it in your neighborhood, but it wasn't a whole lot of people fighting and stuff. You just didn't get. Like I can remember one couple, which was kind of funny because it was a mixed couple who lived in our block. They used to fight all the time, down the street. But that was abnormal. That wasn't the norm. So I grew up thinking marriage, like my mom worked, she cooked it. My mom was a teacher, she used to come home for lunch, she used to come home, make lunch, she'd go back to school because she'd come for lunch at that time. We had dinner, cooked meals, 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, Sunday through Thursday, we had cooked meals. Friday, we had a chance to eat out, Saturday, we ate out, but we had that. If it wasn't my mom, it was my grandma. My mom got up in the morning and made us breakfast before she went to work. That's what she did. My dad would cook once in a while. Because his shifts, police officer and stuff like that, had his own business. So when I grew up, that shaped me as marriage. That kind of shaped me as what marriages looked like. So when I got married, that was my expectation. However, your mom came from a totally different home. So I think that plays a large role in it too. Because I always say when I'm talking to couples, is I have a Volkswagen and I got 10 suitcases, and
this analogy. Because
it works. Because we both got 10 suitcases. It's just like a marriage. All that's not going to fit. So when we just start throwing stuff out, we have no idea what's in those other suitcases until we open them. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, it could be 4 years, it could be 5 years, and it opens up. And now I got to deal with it. And so when I grew up, it was like you deal with it. People still got divorced, but it wasn't like now where people just, I'm out here. I'm out of here. I just didn't. Now, because you see it on TV, you got all these reality shows, you expose some more of those images. So I think people are a lot more comfortable rolling now because it's more of a norm now. Back then, it wasn't a norm.
Yes.
So I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. And I think I mean, I'm very much aware of that. I feel like I'm at an age where I kind of got to see kind of an old way of things and like a new way of things, like just and how it's been
right way and the wrong way
transitioning. Because I mean, very much grew up with my parents both here, seen that. A lot of my friends, their parents were together. I had a good group of friends as well, though, that single parents. And then I think more so just when you're getting into dating and you're starting to deal with that a lot more. I think, like you said, that social media really kind of just like blew things up. Because it gave you this idea of you have one options, like unlimited crazy options, but then also you hear people's stories. You hear so many voices. And a lot of times just based off of, all right, now I'm getting nerdy, like the algorithm, like kind of once you feed it something, like you're watching something or you liking something, it's going to continue to show that to you. So right. Wow. So like literally like some of these people, the only thing that they're seeing is the divorce rate is high. Men or women are negative this or like, or even like just seeing like, oh, bad marriages, bad, like,
but I think lack of identity and self-awareness have contributed to that because I'm not going to allow myself to be conformed by what happened to other people. I think it's good just to take it in and understand it and realize that that's something that you may have to guard against. But I never was a guy that sat there and compared my relationship to someone's relationship and made decisions based off of that. Because I never was. And no areas of my life. When I played sports, it's about me being the best version of me. It was never about me, because some people were going to be better than me. Some people will be worse than me. Just nobody's going to outwork me, and that's the same thing.
You're an amazing man and a part of a small population. I just feel like it's like people out here, they really almost live by what they see online and just their perception of things. Like if I didn't if I didn't grow up in a home where I had two parents that were married and worked on things and I seen those ups and downs, and then I go online and then I see more negativity, it's like it kind of feeds into it. I think there's a lot more fear around getting married than anything else.
I agree, but fear is false evidence of being real. Why? Because you put in a whole bunch of crap. And like you said, once you expose yourself to it, those algorithms keep going. And then on top of that, who are you listening to? You can't. It's just like when somebody tells me they're depressed. And then they sitting and looking at the news, they're looking at horror movies. Yo, you can't, you got a fragile state. You got to be careful what you take in. And that's why I frown upon, I hate it when somebody says they're getting married and people just start saying all the bad stories. Nobody ever tells, you've been married 30 years, and then you sit and tell all these bad stories.
That's a thing too. Nobody ever is like saying like, yo, I love my partner. The benefits are this. It's like everybody get on their soapbox.
But it's an investment. It's an investment, and it's like the stock market. When you invest in the stock market, you invest for a
long-term play. Yeah,
for long term, man. And but the end goal is to win.
The payoff.
And the end goal is to win. You don't get in the stock market and the first time it go down, you drop out. Mm-hmm. Or the first time it go up $1, you sell. You don't. You get it and you for the long haul because the goal is to win at the end of the game. And I think that's how you got to look at marriage. The goal is to win at the end. And in the process, there's going to be lows, there's going to be highs. But that's any relationship. That's with a job. That's with, I can't think of anything I've ever done in my life worth having that it wasn't ups and downs. I wish I could have went out and played every game of baseball and basketball, perfect, error-free. And I wish I could have. And when I was playing football, it don't work like that. It didn't mean I was a bad athlete. It just means it wasn't my day. And I think that's how you have to look at it. There's going to be days in marriage where, just don't work.
Do you think picking a partner has? My bad, Dad.
I was going to say. Now this isn't just me. This is a bunch of articles I was reading for a little bit. A lot of people, especially younger people, view it as an outdated construct. And when I say that, a lot of people, like back in the day, it kind of seemed like you had to get married to achieve or get a lot of the things that you wanted to get in life versus nowadays where there's a bunch of independence. You're almost able to get what you want with enough hard work by yourself. So,
well, see, that's not true. I think that's people who had something against marriage kind of created that fabric. It was never you got to get married to get what you want to get out of life. It wasn't. There were some people who chose not to get married because they wanted to put more time into their careers and what they were doing. I think that's a narrative that's just started getting painted recently that, it's not that. Is because first of all, just because you marry somebody and your mom and I have two totally different interests when it comes to business. I have an entrepreneur spirit. She got the spirit to work for somebody for 30 years and retire. You know what I mean? So when I had people say that, that's not why you get married.
Why you
You
get
know,
married?
yeah, that's like an arranged marriage. Yeah, nah. So I think that's part of it.
It's
Yeah.
part of it.
I think
that's part of it.
I would never marry somebody based on what I'm gonna get out of it. I mean,
I mean,
that's
back
why
then, like if you wanted to get a house,
I would
typically
say
people get married, you can afford that house. You got two different incomes.
but see, that's probably more prevalent now because things cost so much money now. Back when I was coming up, what things wasn't costing this, so you could get a house by yourself. It wasn't unheard of. You know, now $500,000 for a house, you probably do need to get somebody to go with you in the house. I mean, but I think, and again, to me, it comes down to a personal choice. And I think what society has done, and the naysayers, they painted this broad stroke about their perception of marriage and why they think people are not getting married. But if you talk to people, it's a lot of different reasons. You know, some people don't get married because their mom and dad, it was just a bad experience.
Yeah.
It was just a bad experience. Some people don't get married because they realize they don't need to be in a relationship with somebody because they're not capable of being in that kind of relationship. There's so many different reasons why people don't get married. So I think, you know, until somebody shows me a formal survey, they went out here and they tested a whole bunch of populations, I think a lot of it is speculation. You know, I think it is. I think what you said is a valid point. I think is warranted. But I also think there's so many other factors why people don't get married. Because I hear people say, I don't get married because if it don't work out, I don't want to split my stuff. You know,
that was part of the fear I was talking about.
I don't want to get married because what happens to our kids if we get a divorce? And I mean, you know, so there's so many things that people say. But I always say it like this, you know, and this is me in my sports analogy. I never thought about, well, what if I don't get a hit with the bases loaded? I never went up there thinking, well, what if I strike out? No. I never had that in my mind. If I'm shooting basket, I'm on the line. And I was talking to some other day, we were laughing about this, you know, how, you know, you practice in your yard about shooting time running out, and then you get in the game, there's nobody on the line but you. It's a whole different atmosphere, you know, but it's the same thing. I think, you know, you can't, to me, you don't practice failure. You don't. That's, you know, you may want to prepare for it, but you don't practice it. And I think it's the same thing in your marriage. You know, you don't practice, you don't prepare for it. I don't plan to fail. You know, what I might say is, well, if we do fail, is we're going to make this cordial. There ain't going to be no draw, sticking a line. We just take stuff. But then, you know, I hear people say that, but money changes that too. You get married and now you got, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars versus hundreds of dollars. Oh, people ain't all that cordial. So I think there's so many factors. But I still think, you know, and I think marriage, the lack of marriage also has to do with the people not being religious, the lack of believing in God now. I think that has a lot to do with it because some people don't. So that standing before God saying I do, you know, witnessing, people don't see that anymore as being necessary.
I think with marriages or today nowadays, why people really don't want to get married is a serious lack of trust. And when I say that,
yeah, that's a good one. I hear that a lot too.
I mean, people like they think like, oh, what if she cheats, or like, you know, what if she acts this way, and then as soon as we get married, it flips a switch.
But let me ask you a question: would it hurt any less if you were just living with somebody and you in love, she cheat? Does it hurt less because you're not married? I would alimony. No, because it's common law. So I think the pain is going to be the pain. I think the pain don't change because you married somebody or not. I think if somebody betrays you, you know, it's going to hurt. You know, but I do get it when somebody's been stoned a couple of times and you get into the situation. But it's like, you know, but it's also like being an athlete, man. So you got to forget. You got to have a short memory. Not just in life, you got to have a short memory. You cannot be walking around dwelling on stuff that happened 6 years ago, you know, singing what if. You know, at some point, you got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and move on. You take what you learn and you turn it into wisdom and you move on. And again, marriage is not for everybody. So I'm not sitting here saying everybody should get. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, it's to me, it's still, you know, it's still worth it. For me, it's still, I'll say this, being together 40 years, it's still worth it. Was it perfect 40 years? No. But to me, it was worth the investment. It was worth the time.
Yeah. I think even just talking about the idea, like why people don't like failure, they don't like starting over, and they don't like things that are difficult. And I just feel like they rather not do it, especially if they see the percentages or failures high.
But I don't like for what you don't like being lonely. But so you make yourself being lonely because you don't want to try.
And then that's where some people right now, where they think that either their looks or their lifestyle will last forever. People really, and they think that'll take them for as long as it can, and then that's when the loneliness will kick in when they get 40.
Well, statistics show
40, 50 years old.
Statistics show, and I don't know who did it, that married people are generally healthier.
Yeah.
You know, so being single doesn't necessarily translate into all the great things you're talking about. I mean, I look at it this way. I remember being single. And I remember you go out, you had a time in your life, something big, you go home and you by yourself. You know, I remember that. I remember accomplishing things, man. Then I would go home and I'm by myself. You know, I remember having those tough moments, man. I go home and I have nobody to talk to. You know, because, you know, sometimes you talk to your boys, they dating. You know, so sometimes you got to, so I remember that. And you know, and some people are cool with that. I think to me, it's great to have that partner who you can vent to, who you can talk to, you know, who can challenge you. I'm not talking about physically challenge you, but can challenge you to be the best version of who you are. I think that's how a lot of people become successful. You know, it's great to have somewhere you can go and you can be vulnerable, man, and say, hey, look, you know, I'm in a weak moment here. I think those things contribute to strong mental health, you know, and real men, so to speak. I think those are all positive things. You know, the fact that, you know, I can, you know, I don't have to worry about what I'm doing. You know, I got a wife who I know is going to be there for me, who I know loves me and cares for me, and all those great things that come with being in a relationship. When I hear other people complaining or trying to figure this out, trying to figure it out, I got to do this. Like, I don't have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not thinking about, you know, what she's doing with the money, because I you know, hey, I trust her.
That sounds like a dream. I feel like.
Well, see, that's the problem. That sounds like a dream, because the dream is what I said is perfect. It's gonna be. No, I didn't say it was perfect. I didn't say we didn't have our ups and downs. I didn't say it at all. But what I'm saying is, you got to put the work in. And when you put the work in, man, it's no different when you switched over from baseball to basketball. Mm-hmm. You put the work in.
You want to know why I say it sounds like a dream? Because I feel like there's something that Devin referenced, the culture switch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a change in just the societal norms or standards when it comes to the idea of marriage. And I think that very much has impacted how people date and approach it. For those who want it, you know,
good job, Wayne.
They struggle to find like-minded people, because I don't think that everyone kind of, like you said, like I think around when you were growing up, it was probably way more people that had a mentality of marriage. That's something that I aspire to do, even if I don't see it looking a particular way around me. Like, I know that's what I want. Well, I just feel like it's a lot.
People just like the look of it nowadays.
See, I wouldn't say that it was. I don't know. I would agree that it was probably more people more so now or back then. I wouldn't say way more, because everybody. I still have friends who like me. I remember saying I'm never getting married. I just remember saying that. I remember being, you know, hey, I'm never getting married. I just remember being so serious and staunch about that, you know. And people were we were laughing, joking about it. And we always used to say it. Now we're all married. Some of them marriages didn't work. Some of them did work. But we used to say that collectively, because, you know, you get in a relationship, it's a bad relationship. You just get tired of the games and everything. And in the back of your mind, you do wonder, right? Is this what it's going to be like? But then you meet somebody, and you're never going to meet somebody who's exactly like-minded. You meet somebody where there's a certain commonality, and you can work on the rest of the stuff. That I'm going to meet somebody who's going to be totally like-minded is just not, I don't think it's possible. It's the same thing on the religious side when people say, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, they unevenly yoked. I don't know people who are evenly yoked. I'm not saying it don't exist. Typically, somebody is a little more spiritual, and I shouldn't say spiritual, is at a different place in their spiritual walk than the other person. You know, but doesn't mean in relation, because a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't be married. Well, when I met your mom was a lot further along than I was. You know, so if that was a standard, then we would have never got married.
And I was just thinking about that, even when you were talking about spirituality, just in a general sense. Like, in people's lives, they may not be where they are ultimately going to finish, you know? And I think that's another thing where people kind of are impatient and are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Society. I would agree with that.
It's like people want to see results right now. Even if, you know, you bring up an issue, they expect that thing that you change overnight. I'm tired of it. On to the next one type thing. And I think, again, I referenced this earlier, it's this idea that there's just options out here.
But that's where the growth comes in. Growth comes in saying,
everybody just, I could find this. If I don't get this here, I'm going to find it elsewhere.
Yeah, but the problem with that is, you end up, every time you find something, you lose it. No, every time you find something, you lose something.
Yeah.
That's the part that people
Nobody
don't
talks
factor
about
in.
that.
People don't factor in. Yeah, I'm gonna go out and find somebody that's gonna make love to me every night, but she can't cook and she's a slob. So you lose something too. So you got to figure out what's valuable to you, and then you also got to figure out what things can you work on, because everything is not draw a line and saying it's just not gonna work. That's just there's things that and these are the negotiable things that in a relationship that you can work on.
Negotiable. I think you know what's crazy to me when you said that, it kind of like triggered me because you don't hear that ever anymore. You hear red flags more than anything. And you hear people talk about the things that they willing to cut off, and the list be long. But you never hear anybody say, I'm willing to work with that. It's crazy because to me, it's just a mindset change of like being positive and optimistic versus having kind of this pessimistic mentality.
I was looking at this video the other day, because how research and stuff we do. And a lady was saying she's been married for 22 years. And she said she got 18 of them wrong. She said, I got 18 of them wrong. And what she was talking about was her first 18 years of marriage, she was thinking the same way. It's tick for top. It's tick for tack. 50-50. Yep. 50-50. Yeah, we just gonna, it'll work if you do your part and I do my part. It wasn't until she realized that there's no such thing as your part, my part, because that changes.
Yeah.
That changes is we both begin to do what's needed to make this work. That's what it is. It's not you do your part, my part. We both do what's needed to make this work. And that's when the negotiations come in. Because like when I met your mom, I was going out, hanging out every weekend, man. I was on like 3 baseball teams, 3 football teams. I was playing basketball.
Sound like me.
I was Joe Jock. I was on all that stuff. Still had my friends. I would get off work, man. We would hang out. I had to change that. And it's called growing up. Is what it's called. I had to grow up. And I got married early. I got married, like 21. Your mom was like 18. She wasn't really of age. So we got married young. So there was a lot of growing up that we had to do. And part of when you well, she wasn't, because you're supposed to be 21 to get
into the drink.
So well, even marriage, like you had to be a certain age. My mom and dad was the same way. My dad, my mom had to get permission to marry. No, my dad had to have permission to marry my mom. It's kind of the system is different. But what I'm talking about is there was a lot of growing that we had to do, and there were some things we had to negotiate. I could not keep hanging out on all night, 5, 6 o'clock. That stuff you have to negotiate. Instead now we got date night. It ain't me hanging out with the guys every weekend. We got date night. When I don't know if you remember, your mom used to work every Saturday. So I had y'all every Saturday. So I couldn't be playing basketball Saturday morning now because, when it was just you, I would take you.
I know.
Yeah. And then it was just you in the car, I would take you. Then it was 3 of y'all. I couldn't take all 3 of y'all. That's kind of hard to watch 3 kids in a basketball game. So what I ended up doing on basketball, taking the quarter dance, taking you to baseball. So those are things that you negotiate. Those are things that you change, man. And that's part of any healthy relationship.
The negotiables.
You have to negotiate. Yeah. I think it's 3 things when you get married that I understand now. One, you got to know what the negotiables are. What's negotiable? You also got to know what the line in the sand is. What are those things that I'm not willing to negotiate? I don't get into whatever it is, but you got to know that. And the third thing you got to be prepared to. You got to be ready to deal with change, because nobody's going to be the same way 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's not going to happen.
Yes.
Because somebody's going to grow. And like when people say the 7-year itch, I don't think the 7-year itch is a sexual thing. I think what happens around 7 years, people start to change instinctively. And so if I'm changing and you're not changing, and now I got to be careful, because I'm going to be attracted to somebody who's at this new phase I'm at. I think that's the problem. I don't think guys get to 7 years, I just got to go out and have sex. No, I just, that's something women put on a bunch of guys. I think people start to change in that time, and people don't adjust to the change. It's like if you decide, if you don't read, both of y'all don't read, and all of a sudden you decide to read, now you reading, you want to have conversations around what you're reading.
Right. Yeah.
So if you meet somebody and you start having those conversations, that's where,
that's such a good analogy.
So that's what happens. You grow and that person doesn't grow. So now it changes. And when a negotiation comes in that, like I am not a Star Trek. I tell you, like Star Trek. My mom loves Star Trek. My thing with Star Trek is, all black people either deformed or they die.
Yes.
Or there's no black people in the future. But your mom's a Trekkie, so I watch it. So I sit there and watch it. Your mom loves seeing and all that stuff. At night, I watch it. I don't like those shows. I try to go to sleep with something positive.
I'll be watching Married at First Sight.
No, it's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm saying, but that's the stuff you negotiate. Your mom hated sports. She hated sports, but she knew I liked sports, so she would come watch me play. She would come watch me play. Reluctantly, never paid much attention, but she would come watch me play. And then when y'all started playing, she got more into it. Then now she starts talking about football and stuff. That's negotiable. Mm-hmm. But if you asked her 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, is this something you want to do? She'd be like, heck no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the fact that she was even willing to kind of grow and change and show an interest over time into that, I think we kind of talked about this earlier, and I hate to kind of just make the assumption and put that out there, but I think people are less willing to bend or change.
I agree with that.
People are a lot more stubborn. I
ain't even stubborn. I think
now more than ever.
I don't think it's just stubborn. I think people now see if I change is a compromise, not negotiable. They think and it's a sign of weakness. People think it's a sign of weakness if I give in.
I think it's funny because beyond just talking about this compromising. Yeah. People put a negative connotation on that. It's a lot of these words out here that get used that aren't meant to be negative. But then now, for some reason, it's just this is the worst thing ever to say or use.
See what your mom just put on there? Yes, I'm awesome.
I love Mom.
Only time she chime in.
Just to say, yes.
Yes, I'm awesome.
I'm awesome. I'm amazing. Yes, but
you are awesome.
But no, I do think that marriage nowadays, it doesn't have the same kind of the vibe that it probably had when you was growing up. You mentioned that it was a lot more excitement around it. I think there is still some excitement around it, but not in the same way.
But it's not marriage. It's people who to me, marriage still has the same vibe.
People,
I mean, if and ever you guys get married, I'll be so excited. I think people have a tendency to make it not important, and to me, if your marriage is not important, how is the relationship going to go? Mm. How? If it's not married, if you're not hyped and you're not excited about getting married to this person and spending the rest of your life with that person, how are you going to have this great relationship?
Yeah. It's one thing that you said that you dropped a gem, and I kind of wanted to go back to that. But when you said just kind of how marriage pretty much now they escape me again. But when you were just talking about how marriage, for we all, escape me. Come back to that.
I wanted to actually touch on something you said in terms of being stubborn and not willing to change. I feel like that's something now I'm not married, but in my last relationship, that's something that I had to take a step back and realize is that's one thing she said to me is you're one of the people if you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it. You're stuck in your ways.
But it depends on what it is. No, but it depends on what it is. It's some things you got to put your flag in the ground on. Mm-hmm. There are some things that you should not compromise on. That's and this is an extreme, if somebody's doing drugs, you don't do drugs. You just don't give in and do drugs because they say, no, you don't. If you moving and you're trying to start a career, you're trying to go in and they got, I think, something totally opposite, you don't. Mm-hmm. So there's certain things you got to put your flag on the ground. But I always say this, if you're in a relationship and your dreams do not include both of y'all not big enough, then you shouldn't be in that relationship. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be in that relationship because it should include both of you. And that works both ways because sometimes the other person, male or female, may just be the cheerleader or the rah-rah person. But they still need to see your dream or understand that you have a dream. So there are some things that I totally agree that you don't compromise on. If it's something that's going to make you compromise what you believe, you know what I'm about faith. Is compromise your faith or is going to get you to do something that's going to cause you danger or put you in harm's way. No, you don't compromise on that. That's totally what is going to make you act out of character. You shouldn't compromise on that. Now, if you're talking about what kind of movies you want to see, what kind of food you want to eat, fine. But it's like if I'm saying I'm trying to invest in my business and myself, and you saying you want to burn it, I'm trying to earn it, you trying to burn it. That's hard. Yeah, there has to be a balance in there. And somebody has to compromise at least for a little bit till you accumulate enough to burn. But everybody has a role, and I think that's when if you're not excited about your role, how does it work? It's like when you play basketball and you're the sixth man. If you suck, your team is in trouble. If you come out there moping because you didn't get your shots, so it matters. And it's the same thing in your marriage, man. You have to be, and I'm not saying giddy and jumping all over the place, but this is my role. I understand my role, and I'm cool with it. I do laundry because I like my stuff a certain way. Your mom does things a certain way, so certain things that she does. It doesn't mean I'm any less of a person or she's less of a person. It means that we're both working together. We understand our roles, and I'm comfortable in my role.
And so, kind of what you said came back to me when you were talking about the reading a book, and like if we were to read a book, we would want to talk about those things, with people around us. Somebody that's even maybe read that book. It made me kind of think again, like probably people are doing less reading nowadays.
There are audio books. That's like that is kind of antiquated. Let me use a better example.
No, but I was just saying,
you watch like your mom watch
people online. The stuff that they bring in and take in online, they're sharing and spewing those things with other people. So it still did it did resonate with me. It's just probably a little bit more different nowadays, where less people reading. They sharing stories, they sharing posts.
But it's like your mom, she watches the political show. So you know what? I got to bone up on it so I can have conversations with her about it. I don't pay a lot of attention to it because I believe that, the media just hypes up everything, man. They just, you don't even know what's true anymore. Whether it's sport, I refuse to say that. Whether it's sports, whatever it is, you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt.
People want to be first.
But I know your mom follows that, and so we can have conversations. I'll take a peek at it during the course of the day. I'll follow, say, hey, look, you know what? I can have that conversation with her. And just like I use a sports analogy, your mom kind of got into sports, so we can, she talks about sports. Sometimes it don't sound too good. I know she on it, but she talks about sports. So that's part of the negotiating, the compromise that you make, and it doesn't make you weak. And I think that's the problem. People see compromise, as being weak. So like I see these people, nobody's going to tell me what to do. That's being responsible. It doesn't tell you what. Being responsible, telling your husband, your wife where you are. That's called being responsible. Yeah, like with y'all, I don't care how old y'all get. Y'all gonna tell me where y'all. But that's y'all go away. Y'all let us know
that negative, idea or spin on things. Like that person or individual could have very easily been like, all right, my spouse or significant other wants me to be safe or know where I am in case something happens to me or a case of emergency. But the other side is like, no, they ain't gonna track me. You ain't gonna stop. They're gonna have to babysit me.
But see, to me, and most of the time, that comes from what somebody else thinks.
Yes.
Most of the time, it's because of what somebody else said or
other people's perception.
Yeah. And that's okay with me because I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm 62 years old, man. Look, if you don't like me by now, you ain't never gonna like me.
And I think
so. It's not that big a deal. That's what you worry about in high school. Yes. That's what you worry about back when you're in junior high school. Oh, so at this stage of the game, man. And one thing I can say, and I say this to your mom all the time, I don't care what anybody says, we've been successful in every area of our lives. We've experienced that, and we've experienced it because the two of us. Uh-huh. And I say this all the time when I'm talking to my guys, when I'm doing workshops. Only me and your mom could have made y'all.
Yeah.
Any other two people, you guys would have been totally different. So that right there is an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. That right there is an accomplishment, man. And marriage is like when you're raising kids. It takes two people. When you're in a relationship, you're married, you have kids. Very seldom, if it's a healthy home, one parent is doing all the raising. It takes both parents poured into the kid, teaching the kid, grooming the kid, learning from different perspectives to grow into the well-rounded individual they become. Mm. It's not all mom or all dad. So I think, and that's what marriage is. It's two people coming together and you work through those challenges. You don't always think alike. You don't always agree. That's a part of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I laugh. I say that some of the most dysfunctional teams I've been on were some of the best teams I've been on.
Mm. And it's all right. So the idea of you don't always think alike. I think it is this kind of perception out there at times, like that this person is supposed to be like your best friend all the time. Like, I understand best friend, but like the conversation that I would have with my best friend Justin, and the conversation that my girlfriend would have with her best friend are very two different things. And me and her can talk about things, but it's not going to be the same.
But it should be, but that line gets thinner and thinner when you get married and you're in a relationship. It gets thinner and thinner because you should start to feel a little more comfortable having certain conversations with your significant other. There are those conversations where sometimes you may need to talk to another dude but there are certain things that you should be able to share, with your significant other. It doesn't mean they're always going to take it well. That's the growth part, because you got two individuals who see things differently, and sometimes I've been there, and the other guys will tell you the same thing. Sometimes on both sides you err because you don't tell them stuff because you think they're going to think it differently, but then it turns into something so much bigger because you didn't say it.
In there too.
Yeah. But see, that's the great thing about marriage, man, is finding a balance. Because when you find a balance, man, there's nothing like it. When you find a balance, man, and I say this to anybody, there's nothing like being in a good relationship when you find a balance. Knowing that you got somebody you can depend on, somebody you can trust, somebody that no matter how bad you screw up, they always got your back. But they got the courage to tell you screwed up. It's like having a partner, man, that's always there. That doesn't grow, it doesn't change. It just it kind of morphs. Relationship morphs because you both grow and you both mature. You both start to think differently, but you got the center point where you do think alike. And the key thing is that you got to be willing to work at it. The key thing is, and you got to be to me, I say this is the key. And there's 5 tips that I think you got to have, and I'll get into them later because you can keep going. But you gotta have some kind of balance in your marriage, just like in your life. You have to.
Yes, and I think balance in everything is key and important, like in terms of just being successful. Yeah. But I think really just kind of to sum up our entire conversation about just the perception of marriage and versus the reality. Do you think that there is a way where, or if any way, for people to get back to just being more closer in touch to the reality of what it takes to have a successful marriage versus I feel like the state of delusion that we kind of all
I definitely think so. I think I think people have to get back to actually dating and not just going out. People got to get back to courting. What I mean by
courting, get to know each other.
Yeah, is spend time together, not on your phone, not always looking at TV. Just have times when me and your mom would sit in the car and talk for hours, man. Or every time she came over,
they would call you broke today.
We weren't. No, I didn't got nothing to do with it. That's why it has nothing to do with it.
We're just talking about what it is.
Yeah, but it ain't broke because it's not you choose to spend money. It's like when I'm taking her home, we would sit there and talk before she goes in the house, before I walk into the door. Or when we were visiting. Yeah, so it had nothing to do with it, as opposed to going out. I'm just saying we would actually sit in the car and have conversations, man. When I went to see her, when I went to visit her, we weren't always looking at TV. There's times we would actually sit there and talk. You learn. You got even when you go out, you put the phones down and have conversations. Ask questions like like I told you. What I know stuff I didn't know then. Like, what's your 5-year plan? How do you view success? What's your definition of love? Those are questions that you need to be asking. I was down. I didn't know back then, but I know now. And I know because those are things, the hardest part of a relationship is learning those things. It's like on the job training. So those are things, and we got married quick. I told you, I met your mom in August. No, let me back up. I met her in September. It's her birthday. So September, October, my birthday was November. We got engaged. We got married the following August. So I married her before I knew her a year. So we went through some things. You change, you learn, you grow. But we both were committed. But like I said, the most important thing
both
is
committed.
Yeah, but the most important thing is you got to spend time and talk. You can't that's why people grow apart, because all of a sudden they start doing all this stuff apart. Taking separate vacations, and you got friends and they got friends and they do nothing together. You just roommates now, and then the kids leave. Now y'all have nothing in common because that's all y'all talked about. So you got you got to sit down and have conversations. Ask them, if it's somebody you thinking about marriage, what's your view of marriage? You got to ask those questions. Now, these are things I learned now. You got to ask those questions. So you got to court somebody. Y'all go out a couple of times and y'all think that's a date. You go out, but you're always looking at TV, a movie. You're always somewhere where there's no conversation. I think the second thing is,
what's crazy though, Dad, is like I've said that kind of in going out, and not even just the dating sense, or even when you're trying to get to know somebody, like you go into the club, like you need to get to know.
No, you got to block out. Life is full of noise, and you got to block out the noise, man. Everything is not a double date.
They
You're not always going out with your friend.
You want to go on a date. The date got to be this. It need to be that. It need to be this much money. Like that's kind of where dating is.
But that's why relationships don't last. But that's why people say money.
So it's like, what are you doing? That's why the girls. That's what they saying.
But that's why they say money is the number one reason for divorce, and it shouldn't be. But it is, because if that's the expectation, and you're very fortunate if you never experience cash flow problems. You're very fortunate in life. But if that's the expectation, you're always going to break up with cash flow problems. But I think, and I think
it's funny that that is almost like the expectation of a man today. His role is
man. I was broke when I met your mom.
Financial.
I was less than broke when I met your mom.
If you was out here today, you'd be out here struggling.
No, I wouldn't. You know what? Because it would be. I know I wouldn't. It would be harder, but I wouldn't. First of all, when I met your mom, there was no emphasis on me to get married. I wasn't trying to find the right one. That wasn't the deal at all. And so I think that's part of the problem. People get out here and they start conniving and trying to kind of manipulate. You can't. It may have taken me longer, but when I met your mom, I was okay with being single. I was okay with that. That wasn't the game plan. I was not, that wasn't what I was trying to do. So I think that was part of it. But I think that leads me to the second thing, man. You got to choose carefully, and you got to choose more than based on what they look like. So you get so caught up. My grandma used to say a lot of monsters live in mansions. The house can be decorated, but the inside, the plumbing could be terrible. So it's important, man, that you really dig deep into who you choosing. It's important. And you got to look at the family.
You need to be cool and have war.
And you got to look at the family, man, because if the family is jacked up, y'all coming together, unless somebody just kind of makes it so you don't spend time with the family, it's hard to do. You that's part of your relationship. I think, and the fourth thing is, you either got to know who you are or be trying to find out who you are, because that's another problem. You got two people who don't know squat, both of them dumping in a bag of rocks, and they trying to make a relationship work. It's hard. It's hard. And then, so you got to figure out, because once you know who you are, when stuff goes bad and stuff goes wrong, you're not taking it personal. Once you know who you are and we get into a little skirt, we say words or something, you're not taking, is not intended to hurt you.
You're not taking shots.
Just to take shots to tear you, so that's so important. Mm-hmm. And I think the fifth thing is, most people don't take time, and we start out the conversation, to understand what marriage is. Mm-hmm. Marriage is not that day when you spend $25, $50, $75,000. That is the ceremony. Marriage begins after you say I do, and that's the lifetime commitment. There's a distinct difference.
Yeah.
There's a distinct difference, and most people don't understand the difference.
I also think nowadays there's a lot of pressure to kind of get married. Like, there's some ultimatums in there from some different relationships. Like, if one person isn't ready and the other one's like, well, we got to do this or I'm leaving, and you don't want to lose that person, you might get pressured into it.
Well, I mean, I hear you and understand, but you shouldn't be engaged for 20 years either. I mean, you wait for somebody
20 years.
If you ain't ready, then you're not getting married. I think people need to be honest. If you're in a relationship and the end game for that person is to get married, that's not your end game, then you shouldn't be in that relationship. You shouldn't be. And I wouldn't waste somebody's time, man. And that's on both parts. I think if I was dating now, I would let it be known I'm just trying to have fun. I just want to go hang out and I'm not looking, I think you have to, because I did it. I think you have to. And again, there's going to be some rejection in there and people going, well, that's not, but then you know up front.
Yeah. I mean, actually, more times than not, that works.
No, I wasn't the scheme you're talking about. It works. But I think, but again, and it's funny because we all But I also think it goes back to marketing understands this and the world understands this, that we have an identity crisis in this country, man. Folk don't know where they are. You know, I'm dressing like this person today. Next week I'm dressing like this person tomorrow.
What you said,
you know, I'm changing. You know, based on what's going on. I got blonde hair, blue eyes, blue hair. Hazel eyes. Because that's the incoming thing. Instead of be the best version of you.
Yeah.
Look. I'm not perfect. I'm not. I'm good at being me. And I work hard at it. It's not perfect. Your mama take you know that. But I don't try to be somebody I'm not. And I'm not going to spend my life trying to be somebody else. I just don't get that. I don't, the Bible tells us we're wonderfully, uniquely made. And I kind of talked about I know y'all don't read my devotions because they're long, but I do appreciate y'all sitting in the hearts bag. But anyway, in the likes, I know y'all don't read it. But I talk about, I think there's so many of us who allow the way other people see us to impact who we are. Our marriages, our career choices, pretty much everything we do in life now is based on who other people think we are. And I think that's the problem. That's why, everybody got their panties on the bunch because Simone Biles, because her and the other girl was bowing down to the girl from Brazil. It was respect. And I'm thinking Simone Biles won every medal, but what, 2? Come on, man. But that was respect. It had nothing to be. She wasn't kowtowing. She wasn't saying the girl was superior. The girl won. And I think, but that's how we get in relationships sometimes because we get so worried about what everybody think. Or the latest, these women coming out. I don't know if you know this part. These women are coming out because she let her husband wear her medal.
Oh, they've been doing that.
Yeah, her husband wore her medal. That's her medal. That's her husband. I mean, so would you be upset if they win the Super Bowl and he gave her the Super Bowl ring? Would you be equally upset? So that's what I mean. Because we allow outsiders to influence our relationship. Because he was acting like he won the medal. Just stupid people, man, who really got nothing else to do but dive into these people's relationship, man. But that's my point.
Hers is her.
And it was a medal that she. But what's funny about it? Because this was a story that touched everybody's heart. There was a guy from Africa who won, and he gave a medal to his mom. And nobody said a word. They didn't say, "Well, mom acting like she won the medal." Yeah. But his reason was phenomenal. He said, when he won the race, all he could think about was the race his mom ran. Being a single mom, working 20 hours, doing the stuff she do, never going to sleep, sacrificing food so he could eat, sacrificing this so he could do the things that he did. That's all he was thinking about. So but you had all these people complaining because, she was,
But that is the world that we live in right now, and very much goes into.
But I love her response.
This goes into the idea of marriage, reality, and perception, because it's just a lot of complaining, and it's nobody talking about any of the positives or the pluses, or even if you are complaining about something, how do you turn that around?
Because it sells, and I'm gonna go to limb here. The people who say they're probably in bad relationships. So they say all men. So they say all this stuff. So they say this stuff. Like to me, I would never.
See that online.
But why do you care? Because because they're married. Mm-hmm. They sharing everything. He got money. He's not a zillion, but he got an NFL contract. He's pretty good. He's not playing for minimum wage. Mm-hmm. He making some good money. And he took the time to take time off of training camp to go there to support her.
Yeah, that's why they let him go.
So but if he hadn't did that, I didn't complain about that. So her thing was she appreciated the sacrifice, so she let him wear the medal. It ain't like she only got one. I mean, come on, if you put them all around her neck, you probably break her neck. But people were complaining, and these women were coming at him about
it. You see that happen all the time in like football, basketball.
Yeah.
People's spouses taking pictures with the trophy. And,
these women came and these bloggers and all these influencers came, and I'm saying, come on, really? And I don't even give you the benefit of it. To me, I'm not paying attention to that. But there's people who do. There's people who do. Yeah, women chiming in. Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's what we do.
I know that's a common thing. All Olympians do that. They let their spouses others wear the medal.
Yeah, so but that's my point. Somebody decided to chime in on that particular thing and make it a big deal. So I mean, but that's why you got to know who you are when you're in a relationship. Because if you're in a healthy relationship, it's going to be different than other people's relationship.
Ignore the outside noise. You know,
you have to. You got to cut the noise out, man. And, nobody's going to tell me how to run my relationship.
And it's not saying like don't ask or look for advice, but it's just like not all advice is good advice.
But everybody that's on your corner is not in your corner.
That too.
And you have to understand that. Man. Everybody's on your corner, not in your corner. And some folk could tell you stuff, man, because they want to see you get messed up.
Yeah.
There's some folk who want to come through the
or they want to see you in the same situation or both. Come join my misery party. That's what it is.
I'm at the stage in my life is where I had Mackenzie in the office yesterday, and I love around Mackenzie because he just reminds me of the simplicity of what life should be. At an office yesterday, he just chilling, man. I am in a meeting. He chilling in the meeting, man. He just chilling, man. He come out the office
chilling.
Grandpa, I'm hungry. I mean, he's not too excited, he just, just how he is. And he just reminds me, man, like, that's how we need to be in life, man. Everything can't be 200 miles an hour, and he don't care what people do. He don't care what they think about him. He come out there and say, Mackenzie, you see the people right there? Oh, hi. And I'm talking to Grandpa. He don't see me as a boss or supervisor. I'm Grandpa. He don't care where we are. I'm Grandpa. I took him to, we went to Urban Air, same thing. Everybody was calling me Mr. Pender, Mr. Chris, he's like, no, that's Grandpa. Let's keep it simple. And I think he doesn't care what other people think. And that's the way we have to be in our relationships, man. We cannot be so consumed with what other people think or allow society to define what relationship is and what works for us. And I think that's why you hear people like J.D. Vance's wife came out and said, this is like moronic. What the statement? She should have just shut up. She goes, because he made the statement, if you don't have kids, women don't have kids, basically something wrong with them. They just, they destroying the fabric of American family. So his wife comes out and says, well, he didn't mean to, offend people who can't have children, just the people who don't have children. Like, seriously? But how many people hear this? And they like, to me, I wouldn't even give her a response.
We will.
but that's what I mean. We allow the noise to influence us, man, to influence our relationships, to tell us what our relationship should look like, and it shouldn't. Yeah. I like having, people tease me, I like having a date night with your mom. I enjoy it, and I enjoy each and every last one of them. I ain't got a problem getting in my car coming straight home. That's okay. I don't, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. People think marriage is supposed to be cool.
It is cool. You see, what's your definition of cool?
That too. That's probably a whole nother thing.
But what's your definition of cool? It's the same way, I think, and me, I always like these analogies. I think when you play ball and you focus on the crowd, you're never going to be as good as you could possibly be. But if you play ball and you focus on a game, it unfolds naturally. It unfolds naturally. It was funny because each one of y'all coaches said the same thing. Whether it was volleyball, whether it was basketball, they were like, hey, your kids just seem unfazed. Because y'all played in front of crowds early.
Yeah.
Y'all played by the time y'all got to high school, it was nothing new.
A lot of times I didn't even see it.
It was nothing new. Like, I was laughing and joking because I would say it could be 200 people in the gym where y'all knew my voice. I would say something there, y'all would find me in the crowd. But see, that's the way you have to be. You got to be so fine-tuned in your relationship that all this stuff going around, you just hear her voice. You just hear his voice. All other stuff, people telling you what to do, it don't matter.
Drown out the noise, people. I feel like that's what is going to lead to just having better views and outcomes, I think, in marriage is just drowning out some of the noise.
But I do agree with what you said. I think fear is really, and that's a show within itself to define, because I think people are afraid of everything now.
Yes.
They're afraid of everything now.
Afraid of everything.
I don't understand, man.
It's like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, afraid of anything that's different or unknown to them. It's just like people immediately tear it down, don't want to learn about it, not interested.
I'm at the stage of my life, man. I just want happy. I want to be happy. I want to have peace, and I want to be fulfilled. All other stuff, man. Come on, man.
People say that. I don't think they know how to do that.
That's what I'm working towards, man. That's what I'm working towards.
People say that. I want peace.
That's what I'm working for. I'm like Martin and
be a beast.
I'm like Martin and
Bad Boys.
Bad Boys. What the second one when he was Musa? Yeah, Musa is grabbing his man. Like, yeah. But I think
I'm a movie buff.
that's the key to successful marriages as well. Is finding that place, man. Like my man cave, man. I come down here, man. Or you gotta have stuff like that.
Yeah. I definitely do want to. Maybe we do that next week. Talk about fear.
Fear.
Yeah, because fear is real.
Challenge to get over it.
Well, Jeff Jones wrote a book, so I don't know if we're gonna bring him on next week or the following week because vacation break next week after that.
It's gonna be a couple weeks where I feel like we're not.
Yeah,
Vacation's coming,
man. I'm traveling. I can't wait. I'm gonna be a bum, man.
As you should. You deserve it.
Man,
you deserve it.
I'm gonna be a bum. I might even get dressed some of them days, man.
You might get dressed.
I said not get dressed.
I bet he said you might get dressed.
Sit out on the balcony in my tighty whities. Now I'm just nah, man.
Old school.
I don't even have them anymore. I don't even have them, but I'm gonna be a bum. I just made my mind up, man. Usually I take my laptop. This time I'm gonna take my laptop because I want to start. I'm working on my next book. So but I'm not talking. No work, man. No work. I'm not thinking about anything, man.
Yes, as you should. I feel like again, everybody needs that time to kind of recharge and reset.
But I do want to say, man, that since you just make sure everything is in tow, man. When I get back,
what do you mean in tow?
I need my grass to be cut.
Oh my God.
I need my flowers.
Why do you pay somebody for that?
I need all that stuff to be taken care of. Because it helped me have a healthy marriage.
You pay somebody.
No, I don't. I do it myself.
Well, you do have a right.
I do it all myself.
Well, I might see somebody.
But Devin looks out the window.
I got a Jamaican guy that do it for $60.
Hey, look, I want to see. I ain't never seen a Jamaican guy cut grass yet.
At my house, I'll send him over.
I need to meet him because
I'll send him over.
Now we about to get the stereotypes.
And
we're not going to have that conversation.
And he just made block captain. Shout outs to you. But
we got to send him over. See what he charges.
Thank you all for listening in. Stopping in to hear our conversation. Hopefully, you picked up something useful. And as always, make sure that you drop some comments, drop some questions, engage with us. We want to see y'all start to interact with us a little bit more. We want to interact with you guys.
But I do want to say this. I think, we've been doing this show, man, for a while now.
Yeah, well, we're here.
Yeah, for a while, almost 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, almost 2 years, man. I do want to say that it's been a blast, man. I love working with you guys, man. I love that we can get on this platform and do the things we're doing. I love the fact that people love what we're doing. We can just give them a like, follow, subscribe. But because I always had these conversations with people who actually watch, who I had no idea. Somebody, I was outside of school the other day, and somebody said, "Yo, I didn't know you do a podcast." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how do you know?" Well, they never told me the name. Oh, well, my friend knows your son, Chris,
it's great,
and he turned me on to it. So yeah, he says, so I was checking it out. So and I get people all the time say, "Yo, who?" So that's the great part about it, and the fact that I'm able to do it with you guys is
it's
amazing.
Like people definitely do check in and watch a little bit later, which we appreciate that. Continue to give us the views and continue to comment. Like we said, I want to see some of y'all that watch it say something.
Yeah, some messaging.
Give us a thumbs up or something.
He didn't say happy birthday. Had the big birthday too.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did have a birthday a couple weeks ago.
Man. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. 37 now. I'm getting up there. Almost
I'll be
40.
63 in November, man. I was thinking about that. 63, man. That's crazy.
40. Moment of silence for that. But thank you, guys.
I'm still young, so.
Thank you. Devin ain't got nothing to add. He's like, well. Sorry.
Wayne, we appreciate you, dude, so much, man. Hey, but again, another great episode of Above Average Black. Man, I just want to take this time to give you guys our flowers, man, because after next week we got the little vacation spent, so I just want to let you guys know, man, that I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I really do.
Thank you, Dave. Love you too.
I really do.
Dave, drop your lines.
Like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us. Above Average Black Men, A2BM.
Yep. So take care, everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next week.
Same time, same channel.